Copenhague tem menos de 5% da população frequentando academias e a maioria dos seus habitantes está em forma. A explicação pode estar nesse outro dado impressionante. Aqui tem mais bicicletas que humanos. E a cidade atormenta a vida de quem resolve sair de carro. Não tem estacionamento e o espaço é o mesmo que para ciclovias. A ideia de gerar a energia que vai te transportar é algo totalmente incorporado no cotidiano dessa cidade.
What happened in Copenhagen is that starting in 1903, so 115 years ago, the first bicycle tracks were built, and then there has basically been built every single year new distances, and today we have almost 400 kilometers of segregated bicycle infrastructure in the city. So it's not only a very efficient, comfortable, nice, relaxing way to get around city, but it's also it's extremely good for your health.
Hils de små.
Det skal vi.
Altså, ja. Jeg vågner klokken 5:30, og så tager jeg bad, så laver jeg morgengymnastik og spiser morgenmad. Så cykler jeg til arbejde. Det tager 40 minutter. Jeg føler mig klart meget mere parat til at komme på arbejde og gå i gang med det, der skal, når jeg ligesom har cyklet den natur, fået frisk luft, og jeg er på arbejde indtil 2:30, hvor jeg cykler hjem og henter børn. Fordi vi har ikke nogen bil, fordi vi har ikke brug for det rigtigt. I København, der kan man cykle, hvor man vil, og komme nærmest alle steder.
Infrastructure, therefore, is kind of the basic. But also it has to do with this about normalizing cycling. There has been there was a research in United Kingdom, and they did a project. They had a normal-looking woman cycling down a street with no helmet, just normal clothes, cycling. And then they had a person with a helmet and reflex vest and all kind of protective gear on. And they could see the car was driving much closer to the person that were all protected. And they kept more distance to the person that looked like a normal person. So apart from the infrastructure, it's also a question of keep communicating to car drivers and everybody else that it's not cyclists, it's people. Or it could be my sister, or it could be my daughter, or it could be my mother on that bike. So therefore, of course, I take care.
Hvornår har man vist med at være op?
Det må du nok spørge om. Jeg synes også godt nok, det var længe. Jo. Vi er jo i april måned nu. Hov! Det sagde jeg, altså, jeg cykler som regel i al slags vejr, fordi det som sagt er det hurtigste og det letteste. Men jeg kan godt finde på, især hvis det stormer rigtig meget, hvis der er rigtig, rigtig meget vind, så synes jeg, det er irriterende at cykle, fordi så kommer man ingen vegne. Jeg synes, regn kan man som regel, så kan man tage noget regntøj på, og så kan man tage det af igen, når man kommer frem. Men vinden kan være så irriterende, at jeg nogle gange hopper på en bus alligevel. Men det gør også, at jeg får noget motion, som jeg ellers ikke ville få, fordi jeg har 3 børn, jeg har ikke tid til at motionere en hel masse ved siden af. Jeg tror, jeg cykler vel omkring 100 kilometer om ugen. Måske godt og vel. For børnene, der tænker jeg, at de har jo ikke så langt. Så i virkeligheden ville det være fint, hvis vi havde lidt længere, så de kunne få lidt mere motion, end de gør. Det gjorde ikke noget, at de fik en lidt længere cykeltur. Men jeg tror stadig, det betyder noget for dem, at de transporterer sig selv. Det betyder noget for deres selvforståelse. Altså for den der følelse af, at jeg kan noget selv, og at jeg er selvkørende.
And of course, when you as a child learn that cycling is a very fast way to get around. It's a very efficient way. It's an extremely fun way to get around because you have speed and you see so many things. You, as a grown-up, you understand that cycling can be one of the choices you can take. You can use your car, you can walk, you can jump on the bus or public transport, but you can definitely also take your bicycle.
Der har ikke været nogen af vores børn, der sådan på nogen måde skulle tvinges til at cykle. Og det tror jeg ikke, man ser. Altså de fleste vil gerne ud og cykle.
In school, many schools in Denmark, for example, the kids, they take, like for fun, a driver license for cycling. So they also know how to do signs and how to do things. So yes, so have some knowledge on how to behave yourself, but also some knowledge on the other modes of transport. In Copenhagen, the market share for cycling until like a distance of 7-8 kilometers for a trip is around 60%. Then 60% uses a bike. So also in Copenhagen, there's a focus on doing a regional network of supercycle highways, where you can use the bicycle on longer distances.
Jeg tror, jeg cykler 130 kilometer om ugen frem og tilbage til arbejde. Der er 13 kilometer hver vej. Men cykelturen er jo ligesom det er mit eneste frikvarter i min dag, hvor jeg ikke skal tænke på andet end at komme fra A til B. Og det er ligesom en form for meditation. Jeg kan trække vejret. Jeg kan kun være mig selv. Jeg skal ikke forholde mig til noget andet. Så
We also know from numbers what is cycled today in the greater Copenhagen region saves the industry for 1.1 absentee because of sickness days per year. And if you work with human resources or if you work with management, you know that is a very, very good, if you can make the numbers, people stay away from work, if you can make that number drop, you're making a good investment because people are more productive, they're more fresh, they're more happy, they're more healthy. I'm not saying that the bicycle is an answer to everything, but it is a very big key to solve a lot of the issues that we face as modern cities, with a lot of people, with a lot of congestion, with a lot of noise pollution, with a lot of air pollution. And even in some of the mega cities, 25, 30 kilometers, it's maybe a bit too much. And I'm pretty sure driving 30 kilometers in a car in a Brazilian megacity takes quite some time.